Hey there, in today's video I want to give you 5 reasons to play the French defense, a defense that I think is wonderful, that I've been playing my whole chess career, and yeah, that sometimes is misunderstood, as you will see when we're talking about those 5 reasons. So without further ado, let's jump right into reason number 1. People tend to underestimate the French. They think they can attack it in several ways, that all those ways are really effective, and those ideas are misleading. And I'm gonna bring you a couple of examples. The first one is one I saw on a video by Eric Rosen, a content creator that I have the utmost respect for him. He's a really nice chess communicator, and he created this video, a simple weapon to beat the French defense. So I'm going to show you what happened in his game, because that was based on a stream he was playing, and so he converted his victory into a video. So the idea is to play the 2 knights variation against the French defense: e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5, knight fd7, and knight f3. This is one way to get to the position. The other way is after e6, they play knight f3 or knight c3, and against d5, knight c3. This one might be a little bit more popular because it restricts certain ideas from black. I mean, for instance, the win-hour variation, but of course it may be met with d4. But okay, knight f6, e5, knight fd7, and d4, and here it is. Here we transpose. So after knight f3, black plays c5, normally trying to destroy white center, and d takes e5 is one of the most popular, if not the most popular alternative. Knight c6, attacking e5, white comes with bishop f4, and here we can capture with both the bishop or the knight. Bishop takes e5 was Eric Rosen's game, and after bishop d3, now his opponent castled, and he won by sacrificing bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight g5. After king g6, still there is some work to do. Queen d3, f5, and queen g3. Okay, but he won. Is not interested for us. The thing is that after bishop d3, rather than castling, we can play f6, and we're immediately trying to dismantle white center. E takes f6, knight takes f6, and now they have the chance to castle on the queen side, but sometimes bishop b4 could be really annoying. So I mean, after queen e2 might be bishop b4 or castle on bishop b4, and then castle is the main move, castle, and knight e5. So this is something pretty normal. They want to control e5, they want to bring the other piece to d4 and create a perfect blockade of our center. But the bad news for them is that we are going to win this central battle. The first step, of course, is to attack this knight. They don't want to trade it, they want to defend it with a move like queen e2. And here we have a beautiful idea that has been played only on chess, and this is queen e8. The idea is to enable knight h5, and now usually they play bishop g3, and after knight h5 we are threatening knight takes and knight takes. So things are not so simple. Knight takes e6, knight takes g3, h takes g3, and b takes e6. And as you can see, we have the bishop pair and the center. Our e-pawn is going to start rolling, and well, unless they play f4, but f4 is a horrible one because of bishop c5, and their king ends up being, well, really exposed. The other one I found is this video of Grandmaster Igor Smirnov, Learn to Crush the French in 7 minutes, and he recommends b3, e4, e6. So as the French is such a bad defense, you can play whatever against it and still crush it. You'll learn it in 7 minutes. And this is okay. This is a nice video. He shows a beautiful game, by the way, but this is not true. We can play d5, bishop b2, and most of the videos you are going to find devoted to this line spend all the time with d takes e4. I mean, they only focus on d takes e4, and they forget about something really important. This pawn can at some moment advance and block this bishop and leaving white's setup as something that is not working properly. And there are several moves that can prepare this d4, this timely d4, a6 for instance. Yeah, the thing is that I don't want to play c5 because then bishop b5 might be interesting for white. But if I play something like knight e7 and they push, we can push our d pawn and sometimes play simply with knight c6, not playing c5. And curiously, this bishop gets really restricted. So after bishop b2, one interesting idea is knight c6. The idea is now that if they play knight c3, we play, of course, d4 and gain space, because something I learned while creating the course is that the French defense setup is really flexible. You can convert it into something else immediately. Now it doesn't look like a French defense, but it's still a French defense. So this is reason number one. And the second reason is that the French is a dynamic defense. So when it comes the time to counterattack, you'll see the dynamic potential of this defense. Yeah, so to give you an example, I am gonna show you a line that I rediscovered while creating my course, and this line goes like this: e4, e6, d4, d5, knight d2, the so-called Tarrasch variation, knight f6. Yeah, well, we want to provoke the advance of the e-pawn so we can bombard it later. e5, knight f d7, bishop d3, c5, c3, knight c6, and knight e2. Yeah, in the Tarrasch variation, white mostly bring this knight to e2 and the other one, the one on d2, to f3. So after c takes d4, c takes d4, f6. Now we immediately want to remove the e-pawn from e5, and e takes f6. The thing is that f4, to keep a pawn on e5, loses a couple of pawns. F takes e5, f takes e5, knight takes d4. Yeah, the intention is knight takes d4 and queen h4. Yeah, check and attacking the knight. So g3, knight, queen takes d4, and the e5 pawn falls. So this is a beautiful variation, very beautiful example of how to destroy white's center in such a tactical line. So after f6 is more normal to play e takes f6, knight takes f6, and the structure is transformed. Yeah, now e5 seems to be weak, but at the same time we have some play along the f file. This is a typical thing that will give us dynamic chances. And after castle, bishop d6, knight f3, castle, knight c3, we reached a very important position. There we have several choices, but the most interesting is bishop d7, a small move that wants to improve the situation of the light square bishop, the so-called bad bishop, but it's not a bad bishop, as it is defending e6, and sometimes it can get improved, e8, h5, or sometimes a6, f1, as I have pointed it out in the 10-minute guide. Okay, so now everything seems absolutely normal, but after rook e1, controlling e5 and putting pressure on e6, white gets a horrible position as knight g4 shows all the dynamic possibilities of black's pieces. And the queen can join sometimes. And yeah, this one even may seem like a tactical blunder because bishop takes h7, king takes h7, and knight g5 may seem to win. But here we sacrifice the queen. Queen takes g5, bishop takes g5, bishop takes h2, forcing white to play king h1, and knight takes f2, followed by capturing the queen. Of course, bringing the king to f1 simply gets checkmated, rook takes f2. Another interesting reason number 3, this one could be a really important one for me, is that the French defense is pretty flexible, and you can talk about several ways to play it, several French defenses. It's like a chameleon. Yeah, you can play it, you can disguise it, you can turn it into what you need. So if you are a positional player that you want to play slowly, you have, in the French defense, you have various lines that will help you developing this style. If you are a counter-attacking player that like to create complications right from the beginning, you'll have lines of this style in the French defense. So let me show you a bit, especially against the main lines, e4, e6, d4, d5, and once we face the towers, for instance, now, rather than playing knight f6, we might be interested in reaching a completely different position with c5. E takes d5, and now, e takes d5, and now both queen takes d5, trying to get rid of the d4 pawn, something like knight gf3, c takes d4, bishop c4, queen d6, castle, knight f6, knight b3, knight c6, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, a6, and here we are having a completely different sort of French defense. Yeah, we gained the center. Yeah, we have the only pawn that can occupy the center, and yeah, the prize was to keep the king in the center for a while, but we have a very easy plan. For instance, c3 defending the knight, queen c7 attacking the bishop, bishop b3, and bishop d6. So we're completing the development, attacking h2, and we're ready to castle, sometimes to play b5, bishop b7, and have a beautiful piece coordination, plus our central pawn that sometime, at some moment, will be able to advance. Probably it will be able to advance on the ending. Probably it will be able to advance in the ending, or probably you will be able to play e5, e4 in the middle game and create chances gaining space in the center. So it is something typical. On the other hand, against knight e2, moves as knight c6 also is a really interesting one. Bishop e7, very popular. It's completely different from c5, or on the one I recommend in the course, a6, trying to avoid bishop b5 and to play for a IQP. Trying to avoid bishop b5 and to play a position with an IQP. E takes d5, e takes d5, d takes e5, bishop takes c5, and the bishop can drop back. And besides, more importantly, we don't have to worry about bishop b5 because it helps white more than you can imagine at first sight. So we are going to reach a very promising sort of position, castle, knight b3, and we leave our bishop in this diagonal. This is very important. Knight c6, knight e4. We are pretty active, and this activity sometimes can be turned into threats, and yeah, you'll see it as, yeah, this is really promising for black. So there are several ways to face all the main lines. Knight c3 is similar. We can play bishop b4, the so-called win-over variation, and against e5, the main line, we have several ways to continue. c5, this is the main line, a3, bishop takes, c3, b takes c3, knight e7, and followed by queen c7 or castle, and sometimes even by b6. Yeah, we want to address the inactivity of this bishop, and if they allow it, we will trade it. So, or we will improve it, as I'm going to show you later in reason number 4. Okay, so you can play the win hour, but you can also play something unusual, knight c6. Yeah, this one again putting pressure here, knight f3, knight f6, e5, knight e4. It's also an interesting line, and yeah, this is the reason this is the reason you will see so many books devoted to the French defense, so many courses devoted to the French defense, and most certainly none of them are going to be equal one to another, because the French defense is so rich that you can play it in several ways. Yeah, actually, this one is a really serious line, not as popular as the win hour, but knight c6 is really, yeah, a challenging line for white. It's not so easy to meet it. Yeah, the very serious knight f6, and against bishop g5, you will see d takes e4, knight takes e4, the Rubinstein variation, sometimes the Bern variation, and yeah, as recently has been shown, bishop d7, the one I picked for my course, preparing bishop c6, and I call it the delay for Knox. This is something completely different, and yeah, this is part of the same defense, and this is what makes the French great. Rather than just thinking about bishop g5, I play bishop e7 as usual. No, you have bishop e7, it's a serious alternative, but you have also the Makushon with bishop b4, and you can also play h6, the Alekhine gambit. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, e takes e5, and bishop b4. And yeah, we're ready to castle, and we're gaining some compensation for the sacrifice pawn, as we have a better development, and we have the bishop pair. So this gambit was played by Alekhine long time ago against Capablanca. He lost the game, but the gambit has been revised, and yeah, sometimes it's played by strong grandmasters as well. So this is an important reason to bear in mind. The French defense is a lot of defenses in one. Yeah, I cannot even count the amount of lines that exist. And reason number 4 is that the French defense has a lot of hidden resources that convert it into a deep defense. I mean, there are a lot of ideas that are not obvious at all for white. They don't know what you are up to, and this makes it interesting. Well, to give you an idea, when I started playing the French defense against e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, I played the win hour back then, bishop b4, and against e5, I love to play queen d7. This is a really mysterious move. At first sight, cannot be understood. It is dedicated to guard g7 without opening the position, and of course, if they play queen g4, f5 was the intention. And the second idea that it has is a3, bishop takes e3, as we're gonna give up the dark square bishop, g7 must be guarded somehow, and now b6. So bishop a6 is coming, and the queen sometimes, with some luck, it may be able to reach a4 to attack c2. So that was a very interesting line to play back then. Now it's refuted. Now it cannot be played, if you are wondering. I mean, can be played, but not in serious games. If your opponents know you play it, they will destroy you with an easy preparation. So, and on the other hand, there's a classical example about the depth of the ideas, and this is a game played by Sokolov versus Yusupov, where there was a shocking idea. I want to show it to you. e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, e5, c5, normal win hour variation, a3, bishop takes e3, b takes e3, knight e7, knight f3, b6, as I told you. This is a typical one. We want to play bishop a6 again, bishop b5, bishop d7, and now that the bishop is on d7, they go away. So we cannot trade light square bishops any longer. But here there is an interesting detail. Bishop a4 helps blocking the position a4, and bishop a3 won't be possible anymore. And the bishop is always putting pressure on c2. So white played h4, h6 to control g5, h5, knight bc6, rook h4, very original from white's perspective as well. Now c4, bishop e2, and here, yeah, I was shocked when I discovered this move, and it's a pretty beautiful one in my opinion. So the move is king d7. The intention is the king is going to be safer here in the queen side, and on the other hand, black is preparing the beautiful queen g8 followed by queen h7. So you can see what a deep idea. I mean, it's not obvious at all, and this is more or less typical of the French. Not only you have dynamic resources, but you have these deep ideas hidden somewhere. And reason number 5 is pretty subjective as well, but in my opinion, the French defense is easy to maintain. I mean, there is no big need to study once you have studied. And if you decide to study, this is because you're going to surprise your opponent and dictate the character of the game. So that was it. I hope you found these ideas interesting, these reasons compelling, and you give the French defense a shot. I challenge you to give it a try and to share your experience with us. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time. Goodbye.